Welcome. I'm Bonnie Jackson, and I'm a volunteer with AARP's Community Education Program, also known as CEP. And CEP is a volunteer-led program with the goal of bringing current and vital information to the community on the topics of Social Security, Medicare, finances 50 plus, prepare to care, and fraud. And this is the topic of our focus today, specifically identity theft. At this time, I would like to introduce to you some of the dedicated volunteers who make the CEP program so successful. Joining us today, we have Sandra Eng, Tanya Jackson, Rob Foster, Linda Vitale, and to start us off today, we have Gary Snyder and Steve Booth.
Hello, everyone. My name is Gary J. Snyder, and with me is Steve Booth. We are both our volunteers, and we'll be discussing the history of identity theft and what identity theft is, and steps to protect yourself. Identity theft started then by mail and telephone, and has progressed to the internet, each time becoming more sophisticated. The term identity theft was first coined in 1964, but it's been around a lot longer. The first time that I really understood what identity theft was when I was working as a supervisor for a post office, and a young lady came in and asked if I could help her, that her grandmother had a credit card that was stolen from the mailbox. And the girl was beside herself because of the fact that she's the one that talked her grandmother into getting the credit card in the first place. And at this point, 2 weeks later, the grandmother was $40,000 in debt, and the thieves were able somehow to get 2 additional credit cards. The only thing I could do was put her in touch with the Postal Service, Postal Inspection Service, the law enforcement arm of the Postal Service. Unfortunately, there was not much that could be done at this time to catch these individuals and charge them federally. The thieves would retrieve the info, use it for financial gain, and disappear. In 1998, Congress passed the Identity Theft Assumption Deterrence Act, which officially declared identity theft a federal crime. The move came on the heels of a rapid expansion of the internet. As more people moved their lives online, more of the data became valuable and available to hackers, malware, and phishing. Credit reports and credit cards became increasingly at risk. Aside from attaching criminal repercussions to identity theft, this act also established a method of tracking identity theft. The Federal Trade Commission, FTC, was tasked with logging the complaints from Americans who fell victim to identity theft. And as of 2020, the FTC remains the point of contact for those who want to report identity theft or fraud. The next development in identity theft came in 2004 with the Identity Theft Penalty Enhancement Act. As the name suggests, this new law didn't substantially alter the U.S.'s understanding of what identity theft was. Instead, it provided more tools for law enforcement efforts in the form of enhanced penalties. For example, expanded the maximum sentence for Social Security fraud to 2 years of imprisonment. President George W. Bush established his first identity theft task force in 2006, bringing together 17 federal agencies to focus on identity theft prevention and response. Soon after the creation of this task force, the Identity Theft Red Flags Rule compelled financial institutions to create identity theft prevention policies. Penalties were again enhanced in 2008 with Identity Theft and Restitution Act of 2008. This act expanded some definitions of identity theft as well as adding some potential punishments. The law also introduced a new concept for identity fraud victims, restitution. This was the first time federal government ensured that victims had the right to compensation for any losses they experienced as a result of identity theft. Unfortunately, these new laws have done little to stop the spread of identity theft. Fraudsters are continually coming up with new ways to take advantage of technology in nefarious ways. According to the Insurance Information Institute, financial impact of identity theft on victims doubled 2016 to 2018, reaching an annual total roughly of 1.7 billion. In 2012, 15 million Americans had their identity stolen, and this trend continues today. The three reporting agencies are offering free reports until April 2021 at annualcreditreport.com, and can be done weekly if you so choose. We realize this is a lot of information to absorb, so don't forget that AARP has a fraud watch network online that is always ready to help. Our hope is that with this information we provide, you'll have the tools to deter and detect identity theft. And now Steve Booth will fill you in on how you can protect yourself.
And I want to thank Gary for all the information. And as Gary mentioned, identity theft has been around for a very long time. It's just that with new technology, it's easier for the scammers to steal our information. Now, the definition of identity theft is when an individual or individuals will steal your identifier for financial gains by committing fraud or other crimes. Now, people are wondering, what are personal identifiers? Well, it could be a number of things. It could be your Social Security number. It could be your name. It could be your mother's maiden name. It could be your bank account. It could be Medicare, Medicaid account numbers. It could be your address, telephone number. It's really any identifier that identifies who you are. And with that information, the scammers can really do havoc on your financial well-being. So you might wonder, how does the scammers steal your mail? Well, there's all kind of various ways. It's from low tech to high tech. Sometimes they will go to the dumpsters or your garbage that you set out in the evenings. They will go through your garbage. They will be looking for any kind of personal information. Maybe you threw away a bank account statement or some kind of other financial statement that has your personal identifiers on. They will also skim your credit card. If you ever go to a gas station or a bank, be aware when you're putting your credit card into the skimmer, make sure that it fits tight and it's not weird, because if something is loose on it, don't use it, just report it, because the skimmer, when you put in your credit card, it takes all that information from the magnetic tape on the back and it transfers it to them. So then they're able to use all that information to use your credit card or make counterfeit credit cards and steal items from you. Another thing is phishing on the internet. People will set up fraudulent accounts that look like companies, and they're hoping that you will go to that particular company when they report that you might have a problem with your bank account. And what they're doing is they're phishing for information. They're phishing for your Social Security number, your bank account number, anything that will be able to be used for identity theft somewhere down the line. And then the last kind of thing is that a lot of times people are hacking into people's computers, and it's either going to be your personal computer or business computers. Recently, a couple of years ago, the big emphasis on hacking was for tax preparers, because as a tax preparer, they have all that valuable information, and that can be used to file, bogus tax returns, things like that. So what can this information be used for? A lot of times that the criminals, they can use this personal theft to order credit cards. They can use it to purchase an automobile. They can use it to take out financial loans. They can have medical procedures done at hospital. They can apply for utilities. A couple years ago, my wife was victimized, where someone stole her personal information And on 2 occasions, we found out from a different state that someone had ordered utilities set up in my wife's name. And it took maybe 6 months before we found out that this fraud was taking place. And basically it happened because we were receiving letters from that utility company basically saying that we owe them thousands of dollars when in reality it was fraud. So in the cases where the victim, a lot of times the victim are unaware that they're even been victimized for a period of 3 months. Sometimes it might be years before a victim finds out that they've been victimized. And usually what happens is that they will start receiving telephone calls from collection agencies saying that, hey, you owe us $1,000. It could be that maybe someone accidentally sent you a credit card that you did not order. It could be that you go out and you want to buy a new automobile or you're buying a new home and you're going through the process. And all of a sudden they come back and they say that your credit is non-worthy and we deny your credit. And then you find out that, hey, you have 20 credit cards out there in your name that's, that's been used. So a lot of times, like I said, it takes a while for the victims to find out that they've been victimized. Scammers are looking really for easy way to get your information. Sometimes it's as easy as people breaking into your car where, say, if you're out hiking and you leave your purse there, you leave your wallet in plain view, that's an easy opportunist for an individual to come by, break your window, steal your computer, steal your wallet, and wreak havoc on your credit. And other times it's stealing your purse. You might be somewhere and they steal your purse. It could be that they use high-tech Wi-Fi equipment where they can get that information from your credit card. Even though it's in your wallet, they have this technology out there that they can walk by you, and with the Wi-Fi equipment that they have, it will download the information on your credit card. And we learned in the past that they sell these little card holders that will help eliminate that from happening. As I was mentioned before, the only bad things comes from identity theft. And like I said, you could be out trying to buy a home and it gets denied, and it totally destroys your credit very, very quickly. And with bad credit, when you do get a new credit card, you're going to be paying higher interest rates because of what has happened in the past. In recent years, there have been various big businesses that have been hacked, and millions of customers' records have been stolen. A lot of these records, they contain your name, your birth date, your address, your phone numbers, your social security number, your driver's license number, along with other information. Even though that these companies, they might admit that this theft has occurred, and they might even offer you a subscription to one of the 3 major credit reporting histories, a lot of times this stuff is being sold. Your identity information is being sold on the black market, and they might actually not use that information for 2-3 years down the line. It might be 2, 3, 4 years down the line before they start using that information. Now, I worked for the post office. I was a postal inspector for 20 years, and I worked a lot of identity theft fraud cases. So it is really one of the biggest crimes that's happening at this moment, and it's very, very difficult to catch these individuals. But some of the things that you can do is the mail accounts for about 5% of the identity theft now. And you need to keep your mail safe. So if possible, have a locked mailbox, and especially if you live out in the country where it's easy access for anyone to drive by your mailbox, open it up, and take whatever they want from it. But if you do have a locked mailbox, just make sure that you have a slot in it so the carrier can put the mail through the slot. So also a big thing that what was happening down here in Arizona probably 10 years ago was a lot of thieves would go around and steal the mail out of your mailbox, especially your outgoing mail. So when you put up that little red flag you're not only letting the letter carrier know that there's mail to be picked up, but you're letting everybody else know that, hey, there's mail in my mailbox, come steal me. So my suggestion would be that you take that mail, you hand deliver it to the carrier, or you take it into the post office and put it in the slot, the letter slot, for safekeeping. Even if you put in a blue collection mail, sometimes they are being tampered with too. So your best bet is take it directly to the post office, hand it to an employee, or put it in the letter slot. And you might say, well, it's only a check. What can they do with a check? Well, what they were doing years ago, they would take your check, they would wash it, put chemicals on it, they would put new amounts on it, and they would go to the local stores and cash various checks. And on the check, if you look at the check, some of these checks will have your name, your address. People used to put their social security number on there, their telephone number. You have your routing number that people can use. And with all this new technology, it's very easy to take that check, put it on a printer, and print off 100 checks, and then you go to Walmart, Target, and then you put it for small. What the bad guys were doing at that time, they were writing out a check for them in small amounts, where it wouldn't really be a red flag. They might write out a check for $100, and then in the memo section they might put painting, lawn care, things like that. So there's not a really big red flag to it. So that's another thing you want to look at, is don't keep your outgoing mail in your mailbox. Take it directly to the post office. If for some reason you are not getting your mail, check with the post office, because another identity theft scam that was going on is that people would put in change of addresses for your mail to have it sent somewhere else where the bad guys have access to it. So if you're expecting a IRS check or your bills and they're not coming and you haven't received mail for 2, 3, 4 days, check with the post office. Make sure that no one has put in a change of address, on your behalf without your knowledge. And another ID theft that occurs that people are really not aware of is on Facebook. Have you ever participated in those quizzes where they might ask you 25 questions, and they might ask you, what's your mother's maiden name? What's the first car that you owned? What's your girlfriend? What was your first girlfriend's name? Well, a lot of those questions, some of these banks or some of these companies, they ask those similar questions as a security check. So if you're trying to get into your bank account using a different computer, and your computer doesn't match up with their information, they might ask these questions. And if individuals are, looking at the internet, that's more information that they have to hack into your account or to establish new accounts. So just be aware of that. Now, some of the tips also is that you should shred all your financial documents. Don't throw it in the garbage cans. Get a shredder. Or every once in a while, I know that AARP and then some of these other companies, they do have a shred-a-thon in the community. Put all your information, financial information in a box, take it to the shredder-a-thon, and let them do the work for you. It's really easy to do it. Also, check your financial records and credit reports, all the time. If you notice something on your credit report, say a credit card or 2 credit cards that you did not order, then you need to contact these companies right away and let them know that, hey, I did not have this credit card. I did not order it. On your bank statements, if there's something on there that doesn't look right, there's a charge of $1. Let the bank know that, hey, what's this $1 charge for? Someone might have your information and just testing the system, to see if they can get your money. And what happens if you are a victim? First thing you want to do is you want to file a police report, because a lot of these credit card companies will not do anything unless they have a police report on file. Contact the credit card companies to let them know what's going on. Contact the 3 nationwide consumer reporting companies to place a fraud alert on your account. and report the incident to the Federal Trade Commission, because they normally keep track of all that, and they do have a wonderful website on what to do if you're a victim, the steps to follow. Sometimes it's easy to correct if you catch it right away, where maybe there's only one incident. But if you wait 2, 3, 4 years down the line, it could be a nightmare, and it could cost you a lot of money and a lot of heartache. So this is a little bit on the general tips on identity theft. I hope that if we can reach people and shed some light out there on people, and then throw up these red flags, and it catches somebody, and they're able to find out that, hey, they know the steps to take. So I hope that this helps, and that would be the end of my little presentation. Thank you.
Thanks, gentlemen. It was really great information, and it makes me kind of long for the old days when all we had to really do in the beginning of ID theft was monitor our mail and our mailboxes. But now, in this day and age, we are bombarded with scams from every single angle. So we have to do everything we can to protect ourselves from becoming a victim. And an example of that is medical ID theft. And Rob Foster is going to speak to us about that.
Well, thank you for listening in. And I'm going to be talking about medical theft and how you can deal with it. Okay. Now, what is it? It's when your medical information, your insurance ID, your social security number, your Medicare number are somehow stolen and used on your behalf. Medical ID turns out is a hot commodity where your name and Medicare number may be worth $10 on the dark web, where a credit card number only maybe fetches $1. And the reason being, credit card theft is easier to catch for those people who are observant. What other warning signs are there? If you receive a bill for services that you didn't order and you didn't participate in, that is a big question mark. You might receive an inquiry from a debt collector suggesting you have outstanding debt you're totally unaware of. Or your insurance company claims you've reached your benefit limit when in fact you have not. Or even in some cases, people have had applications for insurance denied because of fraudulent information on their medical information. How does this happen? Well, data breaches, despite increasing sophistication in the system storing the data, are still a problem. A few years ago, Anthem, a very large medical provider, was hacked, and 80 million individual records were out on the dark web. These days, hospitals still have relatively old systems that aren't as secure as many businesses. Secondly, we've already talked about phishing. That's where you're contacted by phone, by text, or by email, and the bad guy is cleverly trying to get sensitive information from you. Dumpster diving, that's becoming less of a concern. Something to be aware of: if you're offered free medical services, how do you know they're free? Why is someone in business to give things away? Well, they may be asking for your medical ID in exchange for these services. So beware. Okay, what can you do to avoid ID theft? Look at your statements from your insurance company when they arrive. Don't let them just sit around, and review the statements. Now, there are a lot of documents in the explanation of benefits that are really just what we call boilerplate. But when you get to the information that is relevant to you, be very careful and verify that the services identified actually occurred on the correct date with the correct provider. Now, if you see anything on those explanation of benefits that is not appropriate or is not yours, call your insurance provider immediately. And finally, be very, very cautious about handing out your Medicare or health plan ID. If someone asks for it, the first question is, please tell me why you need it. If it's a doctor, that's a very appropriate request, but for others, perhaps not. Earlier, I talked about free health services. One of the reasons they may be offering you something, and it may be very low value, is they will then politely ask for your health plan ID. And that's a dead giveaway. Chances are it's a fraud, and walk away or hang up. Some people make the mistake of oversharing health-related information on social media. Well, the bad guys are trolling social media, looking for information that they can use to aggregate a profile on you. Virtually all insurance companies have online access. We encourage you to sign up for it, even if you don't use it, because once you've signed up, no one else can sign up in your place. Earlier, we talked about checking your credit report. This is something you can do now free of charge by going to the annualcreditreport.com website, and you get a free checkup with each of the 3 reporting agencies. Look that over and look for information that's not relevant to you. If you think your medical identification has been stolen, talk to your insurance provider immediately. Make them aware that you think there's fraud going on and work with them to head it off, and chances are assign you a new identity. They also strongly recommend you file a police report, and that can be used if you have lost money as a result of medical theft. Check out your medical records. Make sure that your medical records have not been altered. Just imagine what might happen if a medication you're allergic to is now in your medical records, or all of a sudden your blood type has been changed somehow. These are pretty serious. If the problem is Medicare specific, then you can talk to the Office of Inspector General at this phone number, or you can go online to oig.hhs.gov. Finally, if your medical ID was stolen as a result of a breach of someone's system, chances are they may offer you free credit monitoring for a period of time. And if it's free, take advantage of it. Just be aware at the end of the period, they may ask you to continue credit monitoring for a fee. Let's hope that your medical ID never does get stolen, but be careful because it's happening to too many people. Thank you very much.
I want to thank all of our volunteers today for doing a great job, and all of you for joining us. We learned a lot of good tips today on how to keep us from becoming a victim of scammers, and I encourage you to follow us each week, because next we are going to be focusing on online identity theft. Thank you.